been the leader of the City Council now for 4 years in May. I live in Portsmouth, born and raised here, and it's just the most amazing city. So I'm married with 2 children, and I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking to you about my journey into politics and how I've come to lead one of the 67 odd cities in the UK. So I worked in banking for years. I worked for the Halifax Bank of Scotland group, both when it was a building society and then when it became a PLC. I had my kids, and I had them 2 years apart, and I was at home with small children, and there was a by-election in my ward. And that's really how I got involved. Someone came and knocked on my door and said, you know, will you vote for us? And I'd studied politics at A-level, but not beyond that. But always had a real sort of, you know, armchair interest in politics, and particularly because of the synergy between politics and economics and obviously banking. So I got involved with the Conservative Party. I was in my late 20s, and I just joined the local branch committee where I lived. Within a year, I was deputy chairman of the local Conservative Association in Portsmouth North, and our MP here is Penny Mordaunt, who is the Secretary of State for International Development. And so I worked with Penny. I managed her parliamentary campaign when she was running to get into Parliament for the first time in 2010, and she was successful at that point. And then I suppose from being involved in the association, the behind the scenes bit, I then ended up standing for election myself in 2008, about 18 months after I joined the party. I love politics. I love being able to help people, and that's really why I chose to walk away from my professional career and not go back to banking, because I really wanted to give something back. There are many challenges. There are, you know, sometimes it can be, you know, a difficult role, particularly leading a city council when we've got so many pressures on both adults and children's social care and other things. But I think that my experience and background in finance and business is what's really helped me to, well, I hope, make a success of the job that I do. So throughout my journey, 2008 stood for election, Conservatives were in opposition, and it was a Liberal Democrat run council at that point and had been for a number of years. I then got involved in the Conservative wider Hampshire Area Committee, and I became Deputy Chairman Political of that after serving a period of being a constituency chairman. So really earned my stripes through campaigning and through the voluntary side of the party, which is really, really important. And I think that your colleagues and your peers and party members give you a lot of, obviously, respect if you've done that as well. In 2011, I then was selected to run, and I got down to the final 2 for the nomination for the Police and Crime Commissioner elections in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, because I've been a magistrate for 12 years as well. So criminal justice is something that I obviously feel quite strongly about too. And then in 2013, having been a councillor for 4 or 5 years, I then became the official leader of the opposition, so the Conservative group leader. In 2014, I was then able to put together a minority Conservative administration, and that was quite a challenge. 42 councillors, I only had 12, so we were being propped up by 2 or 3 other parties, the Labour Party, a couple of independents, and some brand newly elected UKIP councillors. And then from 2014, the administration that I lead has grown, and we're now on 20 out of 42. So it's still a challenge. We're still ploughing ahead, but that is my kind of political journey through the key milestones that I've undertaken. In 2014, late 2014, I'd only been leader of the council for a handful of months. One of our neighbouring MPs in Fareham, which is literally a couple of miles from my house, neighbouring constituency, Mark Hoban, resigned, or announced he was going to be resigning. And I did get down, I was a runner-up for the Fareham parliamentary nomination as well. So I am on the approved list for the Conservative Party. Just want to spend a couple of minutes now before I hand back over on just talking about, from my perspective, the different roles that are really, I think people should be considering, particularly women should be considering, if they're thinking about a career change or, you know, some kind of life in politics, and particularly in an elected role. So obviously everyone understands what MPs are and central government and the way that it works, and probably doesn't need a huge amount of explanation. But of course, there are lots of different ways that you could end up standing, either for central, local government, and that can be obviously through a political party, but of course you can stand as an independent as well. And in some parts of the country, the Isle of Wight, for example, a unitary council, that was run by independents for over 5 years. So there are parts of the country where independents obviously can, galvanise support and work quite well. My motivation to stand was about financial mismanagement in the city where I ran, and so that's kind of what led me. It was a huge big project that had overrun by tens of millions of pounds, and from the people that I know, what draws them to getting involved politically, maybe not necessarily in terms of standing for public office, but what motivates them to want to get involved with campaigning is often some kind of issue or cause. That's certainly something I found. So then you go on to local government, because obviously central government is only one option. And with local government, of course, there are loads of different types of councils. The county councils, as we know, in the two-tier system where you have district councils and the county council that do all of the upper tier services. And then you've got cities such as mine, and all of the cities in the UK are run under what's called a unitary council or a metropolitan type council. So we do the upper tier and the lower tier functions. So we collect the bins, we run the libraries, we sweep the streets, we educate children, and we also do children and adult social care, as well as planning and licensing and all of those other things. So unitary and Mets, as they're referred to, do everything. As I say, we do the upper and lower tier. And the big urban areas tend to be under that guise. There are obviously also elected mayors, and the government, I think both major parties, Labour and Conservative, are quite committed to the idea of elected mayors. And we have now got, I think, 6 or 7 across the country: Bristol, Liverpool, Birmingham, Manchester. So we've got some pretty high profile ones as well. And that's certainly something that I think it would be great to get a woman as an elected mayor, to get more of them across the country. And certainly something that I'm considering here in my area. They're very, very strategic roles, really about infrastructure development for major housing and planning developments, or to really push the skills agenda where you've got sort of a skills deficit in the economy which drives your local area. Of course, also, elections will be coming up in 2020 again for police and crime commissioners. It'd be great to get some more female police and crime commissioners across the country. Still far too heavily dominated by men, as is politics overall. And then, of course, you've got the House of Lords. So if you don't fancy being elected, but you fancy some kind of governance role working within politics and within Parliament, by either being, recognised in your industry for having led the way on something, or by being appointed as a political peer, there is obviously the House of Lords as the upper chamber that really does, scrutinise what the government is doing. So I think from my perspective, I'm almost there on my 10 minutes now. I absolutely love my job. There are days when I do come home and put my head in my hands and think, what am I doing? I should go back to working for a bank again. It's much easier. But they are few and far between. I love it, and I wish I could. I'm trying to do whatever I can through the Conservative Women's Organisation to get as many women as I can to be representing communities, because not only are we often good business leaders, but we can often be slightly more compassionate as well. So there we are. I think that's probably it from me for the minute.